Hello, I'm Howard, pastor of the Roseville New Church, and welcome to Spiritual Shorts. Over the last month and a half, we've been running a series on the story of Noah. And this Sunday, I wanted to wrap that story up with a bit of a broad overview, looking at one of the themes, significant themes of the Word itself. Let's begin. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Our first lesson from the book of Genesis, chapter 9. Hear the word of the Lord. And God said to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And I, yes, I, am setting up my pact with you and with your seed after you, and with every living soul that is with you, bird, beast, and every wild animal of the earth with you, from among all those coming out of the ark, including every wild animal of the earth. And I am setting up my pact with you, and no more will all flesh be cut off by the waters of a flood, and no more will there be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the sign of the pact that I make between me and you and every living soul that is with you, to everlasting generations. My bow I have put in the cloud, and it will serve as a sign of the pact between me and the earth. And it will happen in my clouding the earth over with cloud, that a bow will be seen in the cloud, and I will remember my pact, which is between me and you and every living soul within all flesh. And no more will there be water as a flood to destroy all flesh. And there will be a bow in the cloud. And I will see it, to remember the eternal pact between God and every living soul within all flesh that is on the earth. And God said to Noah, This is the sign of the pact that I am setting up between me and all flesh that is on the earth. Our second lesson from the Teachings for the New Church in the work, The Doctrine of Sacred Scriptures. Celestial, spiritual, and natural. There emanate from the Lord what is heavenly, what is spiritual, and what is earthly, in that order. What emanates from his divine love is called heavenly, and is divine goodness. What emanates from his divine wisdom is called spiritual, and is divine truth. What is earthly is a product of the two. It is a combining of them on the outermost level. Angels of the Lord's heavenly kingdom, the ones who make up the third or highest heaven, are focused on the divine quality emanating from the Lord that is called heavenly, since they are focused on good desires that come from love, which they receive from the Lord. Angels of the Lord's spiritual kingdom, the ones who make up the second or middle heaven, are focused on the divine quality emanating from the Lord that is called spiritual, since they are focused on the truths that lead to wisdom, which they receive from the Lord. We of the church in the world, though, are focused on a divine earthly quality, which also emanates from the Lord. It follows from all this that as what is divine emanates from the Lord to its outermost limits, it comes down through three levels, and that they are called heavenly, spiritual, and earthly. The divine emanation that comes down to us from the Lord comes down through these three levels. And when it has come down, it has these three levels within itself. Everything divine is like this. So when it is on its outermost level, it is full of the inner levels. That is what the Word is like. In its outermost meaning, it is earthly. In its inner meaning, it is spiritual. And in its inmost meaning, it is heavenly. And on every level of meaning, it is divine. It is not obvious from the literal meaning, which is earthly, that the Word is like this, because we here on earth have not known anything about the heavens before. This means that we have not known that spiritual quality or that heavenly quality, so we have not known the difference between them and what is earthly. Amen. Here end the lessons. Blessed are those who hear the word of God and keep it. So the Noah story concludes with Jehovah setting a bow in the clouds as a sign of the pact between Jehovah and mankind, or every living soul. And for a more in-depth talk on the image of that bow, I invite you to take a look at my video earlier this year. I'll put a link to it in this corner up here. But one image of the bow that is useful in today's talk is that idea of the bow being layered. Now, they're layers of colors, but that whole idea of layering or leveling also appears in this Noah story earlier when we looked at Jehovah's instructions to Noah to build the ark. It noted that it would have a lowest, a second, and a third level built within the ark. Both of these ideas, that layering of the colors in the bow and the levels built into the ark, capture a truth about the nature of the Lord's Word, and one that is very much on display throughout the Noah story, but is also on display in many other places throughout the Word. Now that truth that I'm speaking of about the nature of the Word is that within the narrative or within the story are layers or levels of meaning. In the second lesson that I read today, it spoke of three levels within the Word: the celestial, our highest, or heavenly; the spiritual, the second level; and the natural, the lowest level. And two examples of how those different levels of meaning show up in the Noah story is, one, we spoke several weeks ago about the idea of a remnant. Now, in the Noah story, it notes that Noah was that remnant. He was a remnant, an example, a representative of the very last people that could be saved on the earth. The rest of them were off destroying themselves, becoming the Nephilim, but Noah was a remnant of those truly good people from the oldest people on earth who had known God. We also understood that a remnant can also be within us. The Lord describes a remnant as something that He implants in us. Knowledges of good and truth that He implants in us from childhood, and they serve us in our spiritual awakening and our spiritual journey later in life. That's the second layer. The Noah layer is the natural, that's the story. The second layer is what's happening inside of us. And then there was a third layer, because the Noah story is also talking about the end of one church and the creation of another church. And by church, this is touching on that very unique Swedenborgian definition of church, that A church is a spiritual mechanism that connects all of mankind at any one time with the Lord. And Swedenborg goes on to explain that there have been a succession of 5 churches. The Noah story is talking about the movement from the very oldest into the second oldest. He calls the first one the most ancient church, and he calls that second one the ancient church. That's the church of Noah. The second example of that layering of meaning within the Noah story is the description of the rain. The narrative says that it rained for 40 days. Well, we talked about the meaning of that 40 days and 40 nights being representative of temptation. Now, in the story, the natural level, it rained for 40 days and it was a storm and the ark was on the water floating. But in the next level, in the spiritual level, it's talking about our own temptations. Now, our own spiritual temptations, the things that we go through. And the word notes that the reason that we know that 40 represents temptations is because the Lord himself went through temptations for 40 days. We know that the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness, representative of their own temptations. They did that for 40 years. So, the rain in the story, the natural level, the literal story, that's the natural, the lowest level. Then we get our own internal experience of temptations. That's also being talked about in this story, and that's the celestial, that's the spiritual meaning. And then the celestial meaning, or the heavenly meaning, is the story of the Lord's temptations himself. The Lord underwent temptations none of us could bear. His ultimate temptation was an attack on his love for humankind and his desire to save all people. So those are 2 examples, and there are many other examples of the layers within this story that we could go into, but this is Spiritual Shorts. I want to give you one more idea or one more way of thinking of this different levels, and it's going to lead you closer to the Lord. You know, the first time you pick up the Bible, you're going to read that, and you're going to read some of it, and you're going to say, "Ooh, that's kind of weird," or "Wow, that doesn't sound like a very nice God." But the more and more you read it, the more and more you'll get a sense of no. There's something more going on here. You're developing some understanding. You start out at the natural, just reading the words on the page. But then you move to the spiritual because you start to see some interconnection between the stories and the word. In today's lesson, talking about the bow, did you notice how the story itself seemed to repeat itself? Well, the Lord does that throughout the word. And it's as it repeats it and slightly modifies it and repeats it again and slightly modifies it, we start to see patterns build and we start to gain greater understanding of what's actually going on in the Word. We're progressing. We're progressing in our understanding and our knowledge of the Word, but also our understanding and our knowledge about the Lord. And hopefully, as we continue to read the Word, maybe read some of the teachings for the new church from Emanuel Swedenborg, we can start to go even deeper and deeper into our knowledge of the Lord to the point where we can really get to know Him. That's when we ourselves start to experience and touch that heavenly level or that celestial level. There's a beautiful passage. I'm just going to grab it for you. A beautiful passage that I stumbled across a number of years ago. Speaking of the nature of the word and what I just talked about, the first time we read it, it's kind of clunky. This is how the Lord's word is, especially the prophetic part of the Old Testament. Hardly anything in it can be seen in the literal meaning besides a disorganized jumble. But when it is read by a person on earth, particularly a little boy or girl, it gradually rises up, turning more beautiful and more pleasing as it goes. In the end, it presents itself to the Lord as a human figure representing the whole of heaven, not as heaven actually is, but as the Lord wishes it to be. In other words, as his likeness. There's a beautiful story in that, or a beautiful meaning in that, and that is that we ourselves are the Word. The Word is the story of us. And as we present ourselves to each other, honestly, we can be kind of a, what did he say? A disorganized jumble. But you know, with the right heart, who we are will rise up. And presented before the Lord will not be what we are as our disorganized jumble with each other, but what we are to the Lord is that perfect image of us, where he'd like each of us to be. Boy, you know what? That's just a great thought. Let's leave that. Take that with you into next week. That image of yourself, not as you are in your daily struggles, but as the Lord would have you be, a likeness of him. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Spiritual Shorts, and thank you for joining me for the Noah series. God bless you.